For joining us for the first of the fall SOURCE webinar series. Hoping many of you, at least those in the Northern Hemisphere, are enjoying the crisp air. We're pleased to have you join us for the Sharing Ocean Acidification Resources for Communicators and Educators webinar series. We had more than 280 registrants for today's webinar from across the continental US, as well as Mexico, Germany, Canada, South America, Asia, and finally Australia, where today's speaker will be joining us from as well. It's so great to have you all with us today. The titles of today's presentation is the Ocean Acidification Story. This series is hosted by NOAA National Marine Sanctuaries and Ocean Acidification Programs in collaboration with many others, including Washington Sea Grant and the Institute for Systems Biology. Our goal is to provide ocean acidification communication tools to formal and informal educators and stakeholders across the country and globally to promote a more integrated and effective ocean acidification education community. I'm Jen Bennett-Mintz, Education and Outreach Coordinator for NOAA's Ocean Acidification Program, and I'll be moderating today's session. We also have Laura Francis, Education Coordinator at Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary online, who will be helping to answer questions from attendees and to facilitate the session today. During the presentation, all attendees will be in listen-only mode. You are welcome to type questions related to technical issues or questions for our presenter into the questions box in the bottom of the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll be monitoring incoming questions and will respond to them or pose them to our speaker at the end of his presentation. Also, we always welcome your input on what SOURCE webinar speakers you'd like to see or what topics or resources can be covered in upcoming webinars. If you have any ideas for us, please go ahead and type those into the questions box, and we will take those into consideration as we plan for future webinars. We are also recording today's session and will share the recording with registered participants via Google Drive. We are very excited to welcome Dr. Tullio Rossi, a marine scientist and communicator, who will be speaking with us today. Since high school, Tullio has been passionate about the ocean and has undertaken studies in marine biology that have brought him from his native Italy to the US and then on to Australia, where he recently completed a PhD in ocean acidification science. He has always wanted to positively impact the world through science, and his PhD experience allowed him to see just how scientific research needs effective communication in order to make a difference. He has invested a lot of time and energy into becoming a proficient science communicator, and he is now on his career path in science communication. Before Tullio begins, we'd like to learn a little bit about you. So if you can see, we'd love to know which of the options best describes your role, your professional role. So classroom teacher, informal educator, university educator, scientist or researcher, or maybe you fall into that other category. You can just press directly on the screen. It looks like we have responses coming in. All right, just another few seconds. Okay. So it looks like we have a great mix on the line. Tullio, I don't know if you can see, but joining us we have about 19% teachers, 36% are informal educators, 11% are university educators, 21% are scientists, and 26% fall into that other category. So with that, I'll let you take it away, Tullio.
Thank you very much. and good morning or good evening or good afternoon to everyone, depending from where you're watching. I'm currently in Adelaide in South Australia, so it's 10 a.m. in the morning for me. And it's great to see such a diverse mix of people. And let's get started right into it. And you're going to learn more about myself and my story later during this presentation. So the title of this presentation is Telling the Ocean Acidification Story. But we could easily change this to telling just about any story with just about any media. And this is because the principles I'm about to talk to you about are very general and applicable to all sorts of topics, not just ocean acidification, not just climate change, but just about anything, and also any type of media. So not just videos, but also blog posts, other visual media, you name it. So this is great because it's not only scientists out there and probably not only people involved with ocean acidification and climate change. So don't worry, this is applicable to all of you, but we're going to use marine science and climate science examples. So the first concept I want to get across to you is this: talk the way they listen. And I think there's two types of communicators. Those that do it the way they feel like doing it, without thinking too much about it, and those that instead do it in a way that has a reasoning. They do it with the awareness of what works with the audience, with what techniques work and promote that magical thing called connection with the audience. So this is exactly what we're going to discuss today: how to create that connection with your audience so that they listen. Because if they don't listen, they're not going to receive your message. So let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about stories, and I'm going to start by telling you my story. So not too long ago, I finished my PhD, and a little earlier, I was at a very exciting moment during my PhD. I finally had my first paper accepted for publication, and I wanted the whole world to know about it. My research was on the effects of ocean acidification on fish behavior, and I felt like it would have been relevant to just about anyone who liked to fish, to eat fish, or even just to look at them scuba diving. So I felt like I had a relevant and good story to tell, but there was a problem. All I had was this peer-reviewed paper, which was 10 pages long, packed with jargon and boring black and white figures. So I felt I had to do something more, because I knew that maybe just a dozen or a couple dozen of other scientists would have actually read that paper. No one else. So I decided that I wanted to do some communication. And this type of questions were floating in my mind. I was asking myself, what's the point of my research if nobody knows and nobody cares? And will my paper make actually any difference in this world? I put a lot of effort in that research, so I want to get the most out of it, even in terms of real-world impact. And then I asked myself, what's the whole point of climate research? And the only answer I could come up with is that the point of it is to let the public know what we risk if we do not stop our carbon emissions in time. So my conclusion was, all right, got it. I need to communicate my research. However, I had absolutely no experience in communication, and there's a pretty tough world out there because we are overloaded by crap information, to be honest. And one day, just to depress myself, I did a comparison between how many Google hits you get if you type in Google Kim Kardashian versus ocean acidification, and I found that you get about 200 times more hits when you type Kim Kardashian. And I hope Kim Kardashian is not in the audience today and she does not get offended, but I believe ocean acidification is more important for humanity than Kim Kardashian business. So it's tough out there how to approach this. And I absolutely had no experience doing my PhD in communication. I never received any formal or informal training in that. So I did some research, and I found these amazing books by Dr. Randy Olson. Randy Olson used to be a marine biologist, and after he got tenure, he decided to do a bit of a changing career, and he went to Hollywood to study cinema. And he has written 3 books in science communication that are really great, and I will really recommend them to you. But this one is absolutely my favorite because it's very, very dense of useful advices and useful templates and practical things. It's called Connection. And this book really made a huge difference for me and gave me a very clear framework to follow when approaching science communication. And I really like this quote from that book that says, in today's world where we're overloaded with information, a good story has the ability to cut through everything. And I think this is very true. And we really have to do our communication properly in the most effective possible way. Otherwise, we will be unheard. And this goes back to that initial message. You have to talk the way they listen. And the way humans listen is to stories. Unfortunately, humans are not programmed to connect with numbers, with data, with black and white figures. They are hardwired. We are all hardwired since a very young age to connect with stories. So this is the type of communication strategy that I used, and I advise all of you to use too, because it simply works. So I knew now I had some basic principles of science communication and storytelling, but how to approach this? Should I write a blog? Well, I never really liked to write, honestly, very much, so probably blog was not the best thing for me. How about poetry? Oh, that would have been completely out of question because I'm completely hopeless in that. Singing songs, even worse. I'm absolutely a terrible singer. But then I asked myself, how do I like to learn about new things? I'm 29, and I love to spend time on YouTube and watch videos. So I decided I was going to make a video because I wanted to reach my generation and younger generations. And today, to be fair, pretty much anyone is watching videos. Just look at how many videos are on YouTube, how many videos are on Facebook. It's just, they're just everywhere. And it's fair to say that video is the medium of the moment. So that's the type of media I wanted to use. And then this popped up. Thinkable.org is an amazing platform that hosts competitions of different kinds, but this one was about science communication. Invited Australian scientists to produce a 3-minute long outreach video to communicate the research to the general public. And my eye fell on this huge pool prize of $15,000, which was really appealing, especially for a poor PhD student like me. So this gave me that deadline that was actually very useful to have to actually convince myself to actually do it. So then I had to decide what type of video would work best and what type of video I was going to use. Well, I didn't have any professional camera equipment, and I felt like also doing a talking head video and just talking about my research to a camera would have been a little bit boring. And then I thought, oh, how about using the footage from my lab experiments, because I had plenty of that. My research was on larval fish behavior, baby fish behavior, and so I had plenty of videos of these tiny little fish, about 5 millimeters or less long, swimming back and forth in a white chamber. But trust me, that would have been really, really boring. So I decided, oh, how about an animation? I thought, oh, I really love those animations that explain science on YouTube. I'm going to make one of those. However, animation is really cool, but it seems really hard to make too. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not an animator. How can I do it? Well, the good news is that today you don't need to be an animator to make an animation video. You don't need to be Walt Disney. The good news is that there is some affordable and easy to use software out there that just about anyone can use. And we're going to talk more about that later on in this presentation. So basically all the magic ingredients were there. I had the good intentions to communicate my research to a broader public. I had some elements of science communication and storytelling. I had that software that I could use, which was the necessary tool. And there was a juicy cash prize to aim for, and which gave me a clear deadline. So I thought to myself, just sit down and do it. And this is what I came up with. So now, unfortunately, in this webinar platform, I cannot stream the audio directly to you. The audio will have to go out from my headphones and back into the microphone. So I hope you can all hear clearly. If not, anyway, the video is on YouTube. You can watch it anytime. I would like you to imagine to be a baby fish. You're small like a rice grain. You're very cute, and you're happily drifting in the ocean. When you're about 2 weeks old, your body starts changing. You become strong. You grow functional fins. But most importantly, your instincts are telling you that it's time to move on and make the move to the place where grown-up fish live. It's time to go to the reef. But how to get there, right? You're far offshore and don't have a map. Well, thankfully, reefs are really noisy places. And because the noise of the reef propagates long distances offshore, you can simply follow this sound as a guide. So finally, following the sound of the reef, you get to destination. Settle in a beautiful reef and live happily. But there is a problem. Far away from you, humans are burning fossil fuels like crazy. Unfortunately for you, about a third of the carbon that humans are releasing in the atmosphere is dissolving in the ocean and changing its chemistry in a process called ocean acidification. During my PhD, I discovered that levels of ocean acidification, like those expected by the end of the century, can cause big problems to our marine friends. I discovered that baby fish can become disoriented, and instead of being attracted by the sound of the reef as they should, they become deterred by that sound. So now imagine to be that baby fish at the end of the century. Ocean acidification is now interfering with the functioning of your brain, and your instincts are telling you to go into the wrong direction. You're literally a fish lost at sea. You have little chances of survival, and you will probably never reach dinner plate size. So going back to us, I want you to understand that what is at stake here is not just the life of a baby fish, but also our multi-billion-dollar fishing industry, thousands of jobs, and the livelihood of millions of people who rely on fish as the main source of proteins. Well, fortunately, it's not too late, and we can stop ocean acidification before it becomes too dangerous. All we need to do is to reduce carbon emissions, and each one of you can help. I ask you to please listen to the science and start doing something that will ensure a bright future for the ocean, for the humankind, and for our baby fish. This research is the most important thing I've ever been involved in. I'm doing my best, but I need your support to help me continue my work, attend conferences, and engage with the general public. Thank you very much. All right. I hope you all... Yep.
Just a little heads up, we weren't seeing your screen at the beginning, so folks are very interested in seeing the whole video, so we just let them know that we would send them the URL directly.
Yeah, my bad, because I clicked the wrong icon. Instead of turning off my webcam, I turned off my screen sharing. Apologies for that. Anyway, yeah, it's on YouTube. You can watch it anytime. Do whatever you like with it. Show it to your friends and classrooms, anything. You're more than welcome to share this video and all the other videos that are on my YouTube channel as well. So let's continue. So this little video took me quite far. This video won 3 awards in science communication, which gave me $6,000 in cash prizes, which for a poor PhD student was very good. I can tell it made quite a big difference. And this video reached thousands of people around the world, which was absolutely amazing. And it also turns out that having a video like this is a great addition to your media release, because journalists love this time. So there's a heads up for all the scientists out there that may produce a media release together with their next publication. Having a video like this helps get your work spread even further. And most importantly, I connected with my audience and made that small but important difference that makes me feel good about myself. And there was this pretty magical thing where I had complete strangers coming to me and saying, "Oh, thanks to your video, for the first time I understood what the problem is with ocean acidification." And then these people, because they connected with the animation and the video, they recognized the importance of my work as a scientist. And they told me, "Thank you for doing what you're doing." And it's a very simple thing, but it was really important to me because I realized, wow, no one ever before told me, "Thank you for doing your research." I felt like it was a given. So this is quite something, and what I'm telling you this because I want you to realize that doing science communication and doing it properly, it is very rewarding. And things like this are even more rewarding than the thousands or tens of thousands of visualizations you might get on YouTube. It is this human contact and the realization that you actually successfully connected with another human being out there. So now I want you to help replicate what I've done with this video, and I want you to be able to apply the same principles I've used to your research or to your, whatever communication needs are. So we're going to dissect my video together because trust me, this video might look like a simple thing, but there is a lot of thinking behind. It took me quite a bit of time to first write the script and then make the animation. So in this video, there is a protagonist, and it is a very important point. The protagonist of this video is the baby fish, which has some very specific characteristics. Which the baby fish is small, it's cute, it's resourceful, but it's vulnerable. And all these characteristics are very important because you don't want your protagonist to be a superhero that is invincible. You want your protagonist to be flawed. And the reason is, every human being on this planet has flaws. No one is perfect. So as you put flaws into your character, you will make your character relatable. And as an example, think about Spider-Man. Spider-Man is a superhero, yes, but it's also a normal human being with his own flaws. He always struggles to get the girl he loves. So he's just like everyone else. He has flaws, and people love him for that reason, not because he's invincible, but because they can relate to him in some way. So try to apply the same principle to your own story, and trust me, you'll get results. Also, this video tells a story, and I cannot stress enough about this. You have to tell a story. And the storyline is simply, well, there's this small and resourceful fish trying to find a home in the vastity of the ocean, but something happens. Humans cause ocean acidification. And so the life of the baby fish is at risk. And then the story moves forward, and because this is climate change, we have an open ending because we're talking about future things. Very important point. In this video, I have one message. But if you look at the scientific article behind this video, you'll find 7 different graphs. If I had to, and potentially, there's 7 messages, each one behind a graph. But if I was to communicate all 7 messages, I would have made a huge mess, and the video would have not been effective at all from a communication point of view. So what I had to do was to boil my paper down over and over again until I kept and found the single most important message. And that's very important. Keep things simple. Have one character and one message. Keep it simple. Trust me, this is the way to go. To make you understand the importance of sticking to one message and one character, we'll discuss the so-called power of one in storytelling. So think about the last time you've seen in TV a natural disaster like an earthquake in some country away from home. The TV reporter talked about 1,000 victims. The whole city was completely obliterated, a huge disaster. You kind of felt bad about it, but not very much, to be fair, because you cannot relate to 1,000 people that you've never seen. You don't know who they are. You don't know their lives, their stories, how they look. You don't know anything about them. So it's hard to relate to them. However, think about, let's say, the day after, when the TV reporter instead talks about the story of Max, the rescue dog, who sacrificed his life after the earthquake to rescue that little girl that was trapped under the rubble. The TV reporter shows you images of Max, shows you Max trainer in tears, desperate about the death of this heroic dog, and all of a sudden you feel something incredible in your heart. You feel connected, you feel touched at an emotional level. But step back for a moment and think, what the hell is going on? You're caring more about a dog than you care about 1,000 humans? Well, rest assured, there's nothing wrong with you. This is just how our brain works and our emotional triggers work. We're not meant to relate to numbers and statistics like 1,000 victims, but we are hardwired to relate to characters and stories and personalities. Other very important point in my video, I did not use any jargon. And I had this dilemma about using the word larval fish, like I used in my paper, or using the word baby fish. And so I've been thinking about this for a while, and then I realized, I think larval fish would not work because people might associate something gross to the word larval, like maggots. And also thinking about it, there is no larval human beings, but we have babies human beings. So somehow the word larval is less relatable to humans than the word baby. So because I'm trying to communicate to other humans and not to fish, the word baby was the way to go. And so this point is important because here lots of scientists get on the defensive, and they think, oh, you're dumbing it down. It's not baby fish, it's larval fish. And I'm telling you, it's not about dumbing it down, but it's about humanizing it up. You're trying to, remember, you're trying to communicate to other humans, possibly non-scientists in most cases. You have to communicate the way they listen. Once again, talk the way they listen. And my pro tip for jargon is to test it with grandma or grandpa or your mother, your sister, anyone who is not a scientist and does not know anything about what you do. If they understand your script, it means you've done a good job. If they look at you with a puzzled face, it means that you have to work on it. My story in my video had structure. It had 3 sections which were associated with 3 songs which had 3 different moods. And this is very important because structure makes it easier for the audience to follow the storyline. And music helps a lot too, subconsciously. So the first section is about this ordinary world where our baby fish is swimming around trying to find a home. However, and this is associated with a pretty relaxed, chilled music. And then there's the conflict. Ocean acidification happens and associated a dramatic song to this section of the video. And then we move to the third section, which is the resolution, which in this case is an open ending. And I try to get this message of hope across. And so I use a song with a positive vibe, a hopeful, positive vibe to promote this sense of hope looking ahead in the future. You might have made an excellent job to this point. You might have had perfect script, a great character, a great storyline, a great animation, but you might still find some people out there, actually most of them, saying, oh, that's great, but so what? Why should I care? So I had to tell them why they should care, because probably most people are not going to figure it out by themselves. So tell them why what you're telling them is relevant to them and how. So in my case, I was talking about, baby fish getting lost at sea. So if this happens, well, it's a problem for us in terms of food security. So if fish cannot survive, there will not be fish around for us to catch and eat. It is simple as that. But to get to this point was not easy for me because I'm a marine biologist. And when I think about fish, I think about all sorts of things like what they eat, what they're eaten from, their place in the food web, their ecology, biology, life history, all sorts of things. I figured this out, that fish is just food, by talking to other people that were not marine scientists and talking to them about my research. And I figured out, wow, for the rest of the world, fish is simply food. And because I'm trying to communicate with the rest of the world, I have to go to communicate to their level. Otherwise, I will not connect. Otherwise, they will not understand why this is relevant to them. They will simply forget about it. Unfortunately, only scientists believe in the value of knowledge for knowledge's sake. The rest of the world doesn't. So you have to think like the average bloke on the street and ask yourself what is at stake for that person. And if you successfully tell them what's at stake for them, well, then they will care and they will connect with your story. Very important note for all climate scientists or communicators out there. I conclude my video on a positive note, and this is very important because there's far too many doom and gloom stories out there when it comes to climate science, but those are actually not very effective because we don't like to depress ourselves. We don't like doom and gloom stories. So it's very important to conclude on that positive note. And so my one message was a message of hope. And, you know, until a couple of years ago, I really thought that there was no hope that we could fix climate change or ocean acidification and both, because it really felt like the world was doing nothing. It felt like we were just ignoring this thing and not thinking about it. But then, last year, we had COP21, which is an historical moment. It's a huge turning point that actually sets us on the right path. And yes, it's just the first step, but it's a huge step in the right direction. So actually there is hope. And you should tell your audience that there is hope. That yes, we have a massive problem, that if we don't change our energy system and so on, we're gonna hit a really hard wall, but there is hope. And if we do the right things, we can avoid this disaster. Another person that uses this narrative of hope is Dr. Sylvia Earle, and I'm sure that most of you out there know who she is. She's absolutely amazing, and she basically reframed the whole concept of marine protected areas and simply reframed them as hope spots. And this worked extremely well because, you know, the average bloke on the street cannot really relate to marine protected areas because they probably have never visited one and they have no idea what they look like. But if you tell them this romantic idea of hope spots, places that want to preserve the beauty of nature for future generations, and associate this narrative of hope, somehow it starts clicking in their head. So I recommend that you all out there adopt this narrative of hope because it will really it will really help communication of climate research. Also, I had one objective in this video, which is different to my message. My objective was to inspire action in the audience. I wanted to tell my public that they can do something about this. So in this first video, I did not push very much on this, to be honest, but if you look at my other videos on my YouTube channel, like the one on coral bleaching, I pushed on this a lot harder. And I really wanted to make the average bloke on the street aware that they're not just passive spectators to this climate change issue, but they're actually, they can be part of the solution. And then what they do with their lifestyle is important. So ideally, you want to convince people and engage with them so that they feel part of the solution, and you want to convince them to do things like reduce their carbon footprint or at least become aware of it. So lots of scientists believe that their work stops at informing the public about what they found. And for the job description of the scientist, to be fair, that's fair enough. But in terms of impact, real world impact, not impact factor, in terms of real world impact, that's not enough. Because simply informing doesn't change anything. You have to call people to action, inspire action in your audience. And so this is what I try to do with my YouTube channel called The Coral Garden. I try to put this call to actions at the end to make the public aware that they're not just spectators, but they can actually do something about this themselves. I like to make this analogy between facts and letters. Letters is good for us, as undeniable. Same thing, facts that are produced, scientific facts are good for us because they're the closest thing we have to the truth. So they're good for us. However, we're not cows and we're not computers, which means we don't like to eat lettuce by itself without any dressing. And in the same way, we don't like to consume facts and raw data without any dressing, if you like. So if mayonnaise and olive oil is the dressing for your lettuce, story is a dressing for your facts. So remember, you're not just telling stories. You're still talking about facts. You're still talking about your science, but you're packaging that fact inside the story so it goes down well and people will like it. Now I want you to, we will not have time to do this in an interactive way, but I want you to think about this at least. Think about all the times you answered to this question, what do you do for a living? You probably answered hundreds, if not thousands of times to this question. And I'll do it with myself. I'm a science communicator, and this is a conversation killer. It is a lettuce by lettuce type of answer. It's a conversation killer. Does not tell much, does not have any emotion. It would not take you very far in your conversation. How about, think about this one. I used to be a marine biologist, and I loved it. But at some point, I realized that there is a huge need for better communication in science. Therefore, I decided to change career and help scientists communicate their science to the public using visual media and stories. This is just 2 sentences, but there is so many conversation starters in here. Think about it. I tell them that I'm a marine biologist and I had a passion for it, so they might relate to that. And then that I realized that communication is important and there's not enough of that, so they could relate to that. And then I tell them that I decided to change career, so your audience might not be biologists or communicators, but maybe they change career at some point in their life, so they will be able to relate to that at least. And then that I like to help scientists, so I tell them a bit about this altruistic thing I have going on, and that I use visual media and storytelling. So you see, it's just 2 sentences, takes like 20 seconds or less, but it has a lot of conversation starters, and most importantly, tells a story, tells the story of my life in 2 sentences. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that most of you, if not the whole of you, experience at some point in your life some end style presentations. And what this is presentation that sounds a bit like this. Imagine like conference kind of presentation. I'm Dr. Tulio Rossi, I'm a marine biologist, and I do research on this, and we wanted to find out this, and I did this experiment, and this is a graph, and this is another graph, and this is another graph, and these are my conclusions, and thank you very much for the attention. This is a typical end style, boring, flat presentation that does not tell a story. So now, Jennifer, please would like to launch the poll. How many have you ever experienced a presentation of this kind? And I expect that, yeah, pretty much the majority would have at some point experienced this type of presentation.
All right, Tullio, we've got responses coming in. We'll give just a little bit more time.
Yeah, I'll keep talking and we'll get back to that when we have a result. So Trey Parker, the guy behind South Park, is undeniably a great storyteller. He created one of the most successful animation series in the world. And he came up with this rule of replacing to make his scripts more interesting. So he said that if in a script you try to change those and with and, but, and therefore, you make your story a lot more interesting. Yes, I knew it, 97%. Terrific. Yeah. So we've all been victim of this, but now I'm going to tell you how to fix this and how to improve your own presentation style so that you can change the world and make awesome presentations and videos and blog posts, whatever you like. So you have to use this rule of replacing, of changing those ends and ends with and, but, and therefore. And Randy Olson, the guy that wrote The Connection, the book I showed you at the beginning, picked this up and had some sort of eureka moment. And so he wrote in his book about this and, but, therefore template, which is basically the core of storytelling. And when I read about that template, I found it amazing. It was extremely simple, but it works extremely well and it's super flexible because of its simplicity. And what this basically is that a story starts with an and. So you introduce your character, ordinary world, doing this and that. You haven't started to tell a story yet. You just introduced a character. The story starts when you introduce an element of conflict, when you throw in a but and an element of tensions. This is the heart of storytelling. Remember that conflict is to story what sound is to music. Until you introduce that element of conflict in your presentation, you're not telling a story. So in the case of my video, the element of conflict was humans causing ocean acidification and making at risk the life of the baby fish. And then the therefore is the word that launches us into the adventure, launches us into a journey. So our character will have to, overcome this conflict and win. This is the and but therefore. I believe that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I use this all the time, and I recommend all of you use this as well. Think about yourself as soldiers in a battle, because unfortunately, we are fighting a battle against anti-scientists. It should not be the case. It should be about the facts, and science should just be taken as truth because it's the closest thing we have to truth. Unfortunately, somehow we ended up having one side of the political spectrum believing into the science, which should not be about believing, but just about, accepting it, and the other side about not believing. So we have people that have very interesting and creative arguments, like global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make US manufacturing non-competitive. Others argue that only God can change the climate. Or down here in Australia, I have one of my favorites that said that coal is good for humanity. So you see, these people are really creative, and the thing is that they're actually very good communicators, and they have strong, simple stories that they're telling. And it does not really matter if their stories are not based on any real facts. They still work because they're still simple stories that click in people's mind. So if your enemy, your competition, uses this power of the power of narrative, the power of story, ask yourself, what are you using? So this is like fighting against Darth Vader, who has a lightsaber in his hand, and you're fighting him with a stick. And if you use bar charts and time series to fight him, to fight these powerful stories, you're not going to survive. You have to use the same type of weapon. So you have to use story and narrative yourself. This is the only way we can fight this off. Dry facts, bar charts, and time series have proven not to be enough, unfortunately. So use the force, use the force of storytelling. Now let's get into the more practical aspects of this. How to approach video. Well, if you work on great white sharks or other charismatic species, I would totally recommend you use your fieldwork footage, because it will be amazing. People will absolutely love it, and you should totally do it. However, most scientists or communicators in general out there don't work on something so exciting, something so visually exciting at least. So you have two options left. Either you do talking head type of videos, but those are not very exciting, to be honest, or you make an animation. So the good thing about animation is that you can make a drawing of just about anything, be it a bacteria, a virus. You can make a sketch of just about anything. It doesn't have to be super pixel quality animation. It can be something really basic like my videos, and it still works from a communication point of view. There's also been some research done that compared the effectiveness of talking head videos against whiteboard style animations, and they basically use the same voiceover on a talking head and a whiteboard video. Then they measured different things, and they found that whiteboard videos produce more learning, a better learning outcome, which is great if you're a teacher out there, especially. They're more fun for the audience, and they're more shareable on social media. And whiteboard videos, I really love them because they have this thing that because you're drawing on a whiteboard, the brain of your audience will try to anticipate what you're drawing, and then when they get it right, when you finish to draw it, whatever thing you're drawing, and they get it right, they get a little reward, a little pop of dopamine in their brain, and that drives engagement. That keeps them focused with the visual. While if you have talking head videos, well, it's easy to get distracted and your mind to wander off. So the animation software I use is called VideoScribe, and it's really great. It's pretty simple. And by the way, that was not my hand. Most people actually don't figure this out. The hand in my video is put there by the software. What I do is I load graphics into the software in a certain way so that the software can reconstruct this realistic looking drawing on a virtual whiteboard. And of course, we don't have time. I don't have time to show you how this whole process works because it takes hours. To help you guys out there produce videos like the one I make, I'm creating this package of online video tutorials, which will be for sale on Udemy very soon, probably in 2-3 weeks. And it will be, it's about probably a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours of video tutorials. Will be for sale for around $50 US. But for all of you attendants of this webinar, I can give you a 20% discount. So if you're interested in this package of online video tutorial, please email me and tell me that you were one of the attendants of the seminar, and I will send you this discount as soon as the video course is released. Okay, let's say you got to the end. You have your amazing video that tells an amazing story. What do you do with it? Well, you need a social media presence. So if you have a strong social media presence, that's great. If you don't, well, don't worry. You can still use someone else's social media presence. So for example, if you work at the university, it's likely that your university will have a huge Facebook and Twitter page, or maybe even Instagram and YouTube. So tell them that you have this video, and that I'm sure they will be more than happy to share it and help you get it out there. Also, if you are a scientist and you are going to make a media release about your paper, it's really helpful to include your new video into the media release, because trust me, based on experience, I can tell you that journalists love to include this type of media within online articles, because they know that people prefer watching videos rather than reading paragraphs. It's undeniable. Other thing, a video like this will help you a lot boost your article-based metrics, like the alt metrics. And if you paste your DOI into the YouTube video description, you'll be able to increase your altmetric score. And as that video gets shared and shared on for Facebook and Twitter and so on, it will boost metrics. So we're close to the end. We're wrapping up. May the force of storytelling be with you. So the take-home messages are these. Remember, you have to talk the way they listen. Don't just talk the way you feel like talking. Talk the way they listen. Story is very powerful. Anti-scientists are using it. So you have to use it if we want to have a chance in this battle. But therefore, super useful, super flexible template. You should absolutely start to adopt this right now. And at the end, if I did it, you can do it too. I was not an animator. Yes, I had the background in graphic design, which helped me, I have to be honest. But I was not an animator. I didn't know how to make animation videos. I learned it by myself. I didn't know how to communicate science. I learned it by myself. So if I did it by myself, now I made it a lot easier for you by giving you the seminar. So you have no excuses. You just gotta do it. And if you're still not convinced, I can help you, because this is now what I do. I can help you writing a good script, making a professional voiceover, adding music, sound effects, making animation, or even infographics. This is now what I do. I help other scientists and institutions communicate their science. Other thing that I want you to know is that I run this workshop, which is basically a long, much more in-depth version of all the things we've discussed today, and it goes into the more practical aspects of video animation and voiceover recording and script writing. So if you're interested in having me come to your institution or university to give this workshop to your students, researchers are more than happy to travel around. Once again, if you're interested in this, please get in touch. You can get more information about this on my website. Other thing, during my PhD, I created this Facebook page called the Ocean Acidification page for the simple reason that there was no single Facebook page talking about ocean acidification, and because I felt like it was too important of an issue not to have one, I just made one myself. So now this page has been live for about 2 years. It reached almost 900 likes, which is pretty good. However, now I'm not working as a scientist currently, so I'm not really on top of the literature. So I'm looking for someone who's maybe more informed about the latest discoveries in ocean acidification research, who would like to help me become a co-administrator of this page. And this page is about the target audience of this page is the general public. So this is not the place where you post your peer-reviewed paper, but it's a place where you post videos like the one I showed you, or blog posts, news articles, and so on. Last slide. Things I'm working on right now are these startup business called Animator Science. With this business, I want to disrupt the scientific publishing industry and apply storytelling and video animation to scientific papers. I want to create graphical abstracts and video abstracts that look great and work in terms of communication to a broader audience. So this startup will launch in January, and if you're interested in becoming part of this somehow, please get in touch. And also, if you have any contacts into the scientific publishing industry, I will be more than happy to touch with you. Last thing, I have this YouTube channel I talked to you about called The Coral Garden. I'm always looking for stories, good stories to tell. For example, I have in mind to make a video about the effect of ocean acidification on theropods. So if you do research on that, you can help me write a story for that script, um, please get in touch. And this is it. You find my website, my Twitter handle, and email. And thank you very much for the attention. I look forward answering all your questions.
Thank you, Tullio. We do have lots of questions, lots of comments, a lot of folks inspired and excited about bringing some of these tips back into their organization. So we'll dive right into our first question. Elizabeth would love to know, you mentioned that VideoScribe is what you use to build that video. Are you aware of where people might find or other apps or software that exist to make these videos?
Well, VideoScribe is like the entry-level whiteboard style animation software. You can go much more professional using things like Adobe After Effects and so on, but those are really complicated. VideoScribe, it's super cheap, well, relatively cheap. I basically, for my first video, I spent $30, bought a 1 month long license for VideoScribe. I learned it, made my video, and then canceled my membership. It was within the budget of a poor PhD student, so I'm sure it's within the budget of just about anyone out there. So there is a few others out there, but I read some reviews, and it seems like the VideoScribe is the best one. And now I've used it extensively, and I can tell you that it's very nice. It does the job perfectly. It's not, you know, super professional, but it does the job very well.
Great. We have another question. Isabella is wondering if you know how VideoScribe might compare to Powtoons software. Are you familiar with Powtoons? I'm not.
Yeah, I haven't used it myself, but I looked into it. Powtoons, I think that company makes two types. One that is a very high-end animation software, and one basic one which is comparable to VideoScribe. I haven't tested it myself, but again, I looked at reviews and what other people said about it, and it seemed to me that VideoScribe was the way to go.
Great, thanks, Tullio. And of course, probably a question you may or may not want to answer. No. How much time does it take to create a story-owned video like this for someone with no experience? So maybe you on your first go, yeah.
So when I make a video, even my first one, at least half of the time goes into the script writing. And the reason is because I take that part extremely seriously, because if you get your script wrong, if you don't tell a good story, well, it doesn't matter how cool your animation looks, it's not going to work. So having a strong script is extremely important. And it takes me about 20 hours, let's say, to write one. If I know about the subject. If I don't know anything about the subject, I might spend more time doing research on it. Making a voiceover, once you're up and running and you know what you're doing, doesn't take very long. However, for the first voiceover I made, it took me, I spent a whole day because I was never happy about how my voice sounded, because it was the first time for me recording my voice and hearing it through headphones, and I was like, no, I don't like that, I'll do it again. Oh, no, that's terrible, I'll do it again. And so the first time you do make a voiceover, it might be a bit time consuming, but once you get used to it, it actually does not take very long. The animation takes me about, for a 3-minute long video, probably about 20 hours. Make drawings and load them into the animation software. It might be easier for me than it is for you because I have a background in graphic design. I worked as a graphic designer for many years, so I know graphic design softwares from the inside out. However, in this video tutorial package that I'm about to release on Udemy, I will show you how you can make your own graphics digitally, how to draw digitally using your computer, so you can learn it quickly. Without that, will be a bit time-consuming to learn how to make those graphics yourself. However, VideoScribe has a pretty large library of preloaded graphics, which are you're free to use. So if you don't have, not drawing about, very specific, hard to find things, you might just get away by using what's preloaded in VideoScribe, and that will cut your production time by a long shot. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Tullio, and thank you everyone for your questions. I know we were not able to get to all of the questions, and our time has come to an end, but we will send the lingering questions to Tullio so he can answer them. I know there was some interest in references for the whiteboard research, so we've got them all, and we'll add those answers to the remaining questions to the archive that will be sent to you all in the next few days. So with that, we do want to just point your attention to the questions box where you'll find Tullio's email if you'd like to email him directly, and also his website URL as well. And we do want to thank you for attending our first fall source webinar. As we mentioned earlier, we welcome feedback and questions, suggestions, which we welcome at either my email or Laura's. And as we mentioned, you will have the opportunity to provide feedback with a little survey that will pop up just as this session ends. And just want to let you know we would really greatly appreciate it if you could take a few moments to complete that. That feedback is really what allows us to continue hosting this story, this series, and allows it to continue to grow and meet your needs. We will share the recording of the webinar, the resources that Tullio mentioned, the PDF of the presentation as well in those webinar archives that will go out shortly. And our next source webinar will take place in early December, and registration info for that will be up on the source website shortly. So thanks again, Tullio, for taking the time and sharing your expertise and a great presentation, and thanks to all of you for joining us as well.
Thank you very much for the attention, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.